he actually christened one of my grandsons with whiskey when
Really?
Hervey took him in. Yes, he
Really?
oh yeah, it is. I wasn't there to witness the act. I weren't invited.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Braeburn Whisky Podcast. Today we've got a special guest with us. This is Hervey Magnall, of Fisherman's Retreat fame, Hervey.
Correct.
But Hervey's a valued client and an independent bottler. Owns the Fisherman's Retreat, which you'll find your amazing whiskey bar, Hervey, if I'm right.
Correct.
And it's also a restaurant and...
Yeah, best restaurant in Lancashire.
There you go.
If not, the Northwest.
If anybody's asking.
But more interestingly, and of course, sorry, Mihai, and I've got my co-host
That's okay.
today, Mihai, with us as well. But the reason, Hervey, we've got you on the show today is because you are an independent bottler and you've got a really interesting story about how you go about selecting your casks and how you mature your whiskey. So we'd love to know a little bit more about that. Just so you all know how Hervey knows us here at Braeburn Whisky, you sort of made an inquiry with us a long time ago, a few years ago, and I'm going to have to check which cask it was he bought. I think it was the Glenlossie, wasn't it? Was it the Glenlossie? I should double check that.
Glenlossie.
Yeah, Glenlossie, there you go. And then we met out in Villanova, didn't we? You were selecting...
18 months ago.
18 months ago. Were you getting casks from... Was it then you sold?
No, I went down to see in Barrameda, San Luca Barrameda. I went down to see a company there that big in sherry, and I arranged to go back later in the year in June in your intrepid heat, 44 plus. And I took my van and trailer down there and collected 13 casks. They actually emptied the casks while I was there, put them straight on the trailer.
Great stuff.
And we're going to try one of its products today.
Lovely.
In due course. This one is our number 10 edition. We've got up to 12 so far.
So this one here, there you go, Mihai.
Do a little. What do you want, Billy? Here?
And that's from Arran, an Arran malt. I laid it down, it's 9-year-old. Its sister, our number 8 edition, won a world-class event with the World Whisky Tasting Awards, and it won Best Island Whisky throughout, and it was only 7-year-old.
Well done.
So you're now into 18 months later, and we're trying number 10. And I hope you like it.
Let's try
Cheers,
it.
guys.
Cheers.
And
Thanks to have you
Thank you for coming.
Hervey. Lovely. Oh, the colour's amazing.
its sister was in a Viogna cask from Yalumba. And I started importing Yalumba casks by... Yalumba's the oldest family-owned winery in the Barossa Valley, in fact, in Australia. And we have a great relationship through the restaurant with Louisa Rose and Jane Ferrari and Robert Hill-Smith, who's the managing director and owner of Yalumba. And I got them to send a few casks on top of their full containers. They sent half a dozen or a dozen casks on a couple of times, and I started filling them up at Bruichladdich. And then I filled some in Arran and a couple of other places, and the results are incredible. I don't put it into bourbon, we put it straight into a wine cask, and I've been collecting wine casks from different wineries from France, southern Spain last year, and from Yalumba. And later this year, I'm going back to Yalumba and hoping to fill a full container with them.
That's amazing.
Because, as my old friend Jim McEwan said, the spirit is the baby and the cask is the mother.
Right, okay.
And the mother looks after the baby until it matures.
Right.
That's such a good analogy.
The better the cask and what she's had in it, obviously.
Right.
I think the results are here.
It's just really quickly, we're sat here drinking this. It's amazing.
Incredible.
I mean, you're picking
Thank you,
up the
guys.
wine and the grape.
I didn't write your
No, not
script.
really.
Oh no! This is one of the reasons we wanted you to come on, because it really is amazing stuff, and we're a little bit like the Indiana Jones of the whiskey world is how I sometimes think. When I speak to you, and you're sort of on these wonderful trips. I met your friend Sandy, that you said you travelled with quite a bit, and you don't use any bourbon at all.
No.
So you always.
We've got a couple of casks still down in Bourbon in Bruichladdich, but that's what we're in the early days. They're 14, 15 years of age now. But we've since, for the last 10, 12 years, we've been laying down in wine casks and just purely wine.
Amazing.
So this is the result, guys. 9-year-old whiskey, let down to 50% from 59% from Aaron. And a whiskey wants drinking and bottling when you can only get so much out of a cask. And there's a lot of distilleries entrenched in this. It's got to be 10, got to be 15, got to be 20. A cask can only give so much. And for several years, a lot of these casks aren't giving anything else to the whiskey. You try it at 10-year-old, it might be the same at 18-year-old. It's not doing the whiskey any favours in my eyes, and this is purely my view on it. I'm not degrading anybody else's practice, but I think I'm bucking the trend a little bit.
Well, look,
The proof is right here.
yeah, absolutely, 100%. I mean, we talked about this a little earlier. We talked about it, didn't we,
Yeah.
on our last podcast about what's going on, and it's still witchcraft as to an extent. But the one thing that we did pick up on, just in response to this, what is something that's happening right across the industry now, and we talked about it again, people are looking to mature their spirits for a shorter period of time and get them bottled younger. We feel that's got a lot to do as well with supply of older stock, etc., etc.
And increased demand as well.
And increased demand, yeah. But this is amazing whiskey.
Thank you.
So you're obviously you.
Well, it's the cask
right.
that's done it.
It's the cask. Yeah. I the only sort of thing I'd like to add, because obviously we here at Braeburn Whisky, we talk a lot about maturing.
You do a lot of talking. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Next episode, I'll be wearing a gag. But we did talk about, didn't we? We talked about the three sort of main processes that are occurring when you're casking or when whiskey's maturing in a cask of whiskey. And one of the key things that does, I agree with you, the cask is only going to impart so much into a whiskey over a period of time, and then at that point the cask is pretty much dead. But there is still this evaporation that's occurring.
Oh, the longer you keep it, the more the angels enjoy
Exactly.
it.
Now, Hervey's
There's some
thinking
really
about volume.
drunken angels up in Scotland.
See, Hervey's thinking about the volume, right? Let's not let too much of it evaporate. But there is also a benefit to the whiskey.
Well, yeah, because
Because you
the less time you have it in the cask, the more volume you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it wasn't that swayed me to bottle these younger whiskies. What swayed me was, in my eyes and my son's eyes, James, he and I and Gary, our restaurant manager, we send it off regular to the distilleries for regular samples, and we say, that just needs another year, that just needs that, should we change this, should we do whatever? And we decide what's right for that whiskey and our clients.
Perfect.
And we've a great, a nice little following now, because each cask is individually bottled. There's no mixing or vatting of our casks. We may put two casks into one, but it's exactly the same two casks and with exactly the same whiskey, same distillation. But each cask is individually bottled. So if we get 400 bottles, like I think we always bottle a few cask strength, 100 or 200 depending on how many is going to come out of the cask, and then the rest we put down to 50%.
Well, there's no lack of complexity as a result of doing that. And at 50%, I mean, I think it's a real
At
sweet spot.
50%, you can add a little more water, and there's nothing wrong with that. If it's not just to your liking, add a drop of water. Some people really enjoy the cask strength, the hit.
Yeah.
And there's some whiskies I've got samples of. He's like that, is he?
Yeah, Billy wants all high strength stuff.
Yeah, I thought he was a bit that way. Likes a big hit. There's quite a few people like the cask strengthers, and we always sell them out first, really.
I can imagine.
But down at 50%, some distilleries bottle at 46, some bottle at cask, and they've crept up over the years. It used to be all 40%, if you remember. Most of the blended whiskies are at 40, 42. But the single malts have come up to 46 and to around 50. We've chosen 50, so it might need a drop of water for some people. For me, that's perfect.
I think it's glorious.
You like it? That's a full 100%.
That's 3 out of 3.
Yeah, totally.
So, I'm biased, of course, obviously, but but if that wasn't good enough, it'd be in our kitchen. It wouldn't be in a bottle.
Well, we've ordered bottles. You talk about your following.
Yes, I've broken all the rules coming in. I've brought.
It's funny when you talk about the.
We're not going to talk about what you brought in.
And what you bring it down to 50%, and you made that observation that sort of distilleries are beginning. We still see 40%, which it really puzzles me.
Very few on single malts now at 40%. I don't know of any actually.
Still doing 40%. Yeah,
really?
More. Yeah. There's a couple still out there, but it's a bit unfortunate because we talk about chill filtering and the clouding of the whiskey. And it's to do with the long chain fatty acids that can precipitate when the whiskey gets cold and you get this molecule appears.
I know.
But actually,
this is non-chill filtered.
But you will never see that because it's at 50%, and anything above, I think, was 46%. Then you don't get that issue.
Right.
So there's no need for it.
You're teaching me something now. I didn't know.
Yeah,
I know nothing about whiskey.
Apart from creating it.
Apart from when it's gold metals, just that.
And the reason I started getting... Is that one of your questions, anyway? I was going to get into whiskey.
I think Mihai was
you can crack on. I was going to ask you.
I don't want to preempt it.
No, you're fine.
I haven't read your script.
We've got a script here that we need to follow.
I have nothing.
No,
I'm going blind at
You've
this.
obviously not done this since day one. Like you must have got into it somehow.
Well, the reason was I used to drink... Before I built my restaurant, I'd have a Glenfiddich every blue moon. And that was about all that was available. If you didn't have a blended one, Bales or the other one, Grouse.
Famous Grouse.
And a few Hague and...
Hague, yeah.
Real throat burners.
Cuba's White Horse.
So that's what I used to drink. I'd have a whiskey and I'd have a few pints of beer and then a whiskey chaser. When I opened the restaurant... I tell you quite honestly, we couldn't afford anything. We opened the restaurant, we'd built the place, the bank had pulled out on us, the planners had put us through the ringer, and I've done for the last 30 years. So they put us through the ringer, the bank had pulled out because they didn't believe in me, and we managed to finish the building of the retreat, and we opened on the 5th of December 1992. I remember it so plainly. I sold 2 pints, to my first customer who came in. We had a lot of opening days then.
Right.
Every day were another special opening day. We invited another batch of people. And they said, "Can we come tomorrow?" I said, "No, you can't. But yeah, if you've got some money, come with it." So I poured these 2 pints, put it over the counter. I said, that's so much. I think it was about £3 then, £3 or £4, because it was Ruddle's best, actually.
Right.
Took the tenner off him, turned to the till, pressed the button, which I've been trained to do, and there was bugger all in it. I forgot all about the change. I said, I'll keep this. If you want a few more pints, you've got credit. How we got through that night, I don't know, but we had no change. But I managed to, get through it. So the back bar was totally empty. There was nothing on it. I think there were a martini, a green one of them green ones.
Yeah.
So every week, I bought a single malt whiskey off our suppliers. And when I got to the end of their portfolio, I asked another brewery, and we ended up with Gordon and MacPhail, who had a massive,
of course,
the biggest and richest whiskey wholesalers in the world.
Yeah.
At that time, I think you may have overtaken them now. But so we ended up. I bought one a week, and every time it came in, I took the top off and tried it because it wasn't Glenfiddich. I tried it. I thought, oh, that's different, and that's different, and that's different, and that's where my interest in whiskey started.
Fantastic.
And my 2 sons, they've followed me. They're better than me. James should be sat here, really. Anyway, they've followed me as well, and they've got a lovely nose. Since COVID, unfortunately, I have had no proper smell.
Oh, really? Oh,
So
shit.
taste isn't too bad.
Right. Oh, I didn't realise that.
And
I'm sorry to hear that.
I lost my sense of smell, which is a tragedy for a restaurateur who loves his food, loves his wine, and loves his whiskey.
We want to talk about process, and you've told us a little bit about that. You touched on it. But how would you sum up your process, Hervey?
Blind. Next question.
It's amazing. Tell us about Bruichladdich and Jim at Bruichladdich. So you say you do it blind, and yet...
Well, Jim's a great teacher, a great advocate for whiskey.
Yeah.
In fact, I think he's got the MBE now off.
Has he?
And he's well deserves it, because he's not just been an advocate for Bruichladdich or Islay, but for Scotch whiskey and the whole. And
He's a rock star.
he actually christened one of my grandsons with whiskey when
Really?
Hervey took him in. Yes, he.
Really?
Oh yeah, it is. I wasn't there to witness the act. I weren't invited. I don't think it was going to actually meant to be. Young Hervey walked in with his son Bo, and James was there, and he blessed him with whiskey.
Fantastic.
Which is
So
no
he's gonna-
better way to be christened, is there?
Absolutely.
It took me like 50 years to get christened with whiskey. He got christened in 5 months. Anyway, you all right, Benny?
Oh, yeah. You keep going.
Oh, God.
So you sent him one of your Bruichladdich expressions, didn't you?
Yeah, the last one we're going to try.
Right.
And I was very pleased that within a week...
Should we
Should we save it? Should we get into that one then?
What do you think?
Well, if you're going to tell us about it, we should be drinking it, shouldn't we?
Go on then.
Let's-
I was going to save it, actually,
Will you? Okay.
till last.
Edition 12, yeah?
Let's save it till last.
A climax.
No, let's save it. Let's save it.
Well,
We like a climax.
yeah. Who doesn't?
What are we drinking then?
And number 11.
This is
We're going on.
In all
Number
10,
11. Let me
11,
just
12.
finish this then.
Our first edition was...
You
Done
really,
in-
for those of you watching, you get online.
You have to go online.
And I'm not saying this because Hervey's a friend and a client, but get online and get yourself some of this before it's gone. It's really incredible stuff. Honestly.
It really is.
There you go. I plugged you there. That's,
You have, that's great.
so I've got those
And,
bottles to the side.
whiskey is like wine, you don't want it too cold.
No.
I was in a restaurant last night, and they were brought my wine out, poured it in the glass, and it was freezing cold.
The whiskey was cold.
No, the
Wine.
The wine. They had the fridge down to 13 degrees. It's just crazy because you lose the taste, the flavours. Coldness takes the flavour. That's another reason you don't put ice in whiskey.
Okay.
Our
Right.
good American friends know how better to drink it by putting ice in it.
Oh, it's very interesting you say that.
But I'm against that. But if they want to drink it like that, they can do. A lot of people do.
Japanese do.
That's
The
up to
Japanese
them.
are
That's
big.
up to them.
Yeah, yeah.
But it does kill the flavour. It does kill it.
When it brings
It really
the
does.
temperature down.
Knocks down the and you're diluting it as well.
Yeah.
A drop of water, and when I say a drop of water, if you take a bottle top off a Highland Spring bottle, half fill it to a full shot, that's enough. And then if that's not enough for you, put the other half of the cap in. But that's how I do. I've been doing whiskey tastings for the last 25 years, and just half a cap of water into a full shot is ample to start with.
No, I agree. Well, when we talk about water, there's a bit of controversy there. I was watching Richard Passon the other day doing a tasting, and he was doing his tasting with sort of 30% water, 70% whiskey, and his reasoning being that you sort of flatten the alcohol out and you can really explore the
It brings
flavours.
out a lot more flavours.
Yeah, and for those, I mean, this is sort of old news, but what's actually happening there is the alcohol molecules, they sort of cling to the molecules that carry the flavour and the aromas, and with the ones that we want to enjoy. And so adding a little bit of water changes the structure of the whiskey. Those molecules, alcohol molecules, fall away from the compounds that we're looking to get the taste and aroma from, and that's why you'll get a more complex profile from the whiskey by adding just a little bit of water. But it's not about watering the whiskey down at all. Sometimes when you got something that's 60%, you
need a bit of
water,
water.
some water just for your own personal well-being.
Everybody's different.
Yeah,
You should never categorise everybody as the same.
That's true.
Our first dram out of number 10, that was in a Yalumba red wine cask. And our number 2, what we're trying now, was a Yalumba fortified wine cask. It is from Glenglassaugh. We laid it down on our 20th anniversary, and we bottled it the 5th of December, I think you'll see on there,
5th of December 2022.
2022. That was our 30th year open, and we bottled it.
Wow.
I actually had it bottled on that day.
So it's our anniversary.
So it's our anniversary
Which is
bottle
really
of 30 years open.
fantastic.
And we laid it down at Glenglassaugh, which is on the North Aberdeenshire coast, and we brought it down, bottled it at our warehouse in southern Scotland, and it's got a slight, if you taste it, you've tried it, I'm not sure, try it, hold it in your mouth, and you'll get a lovely, totally different than that one, than the first one. It gives you a nice warm,
Spice to it.
yeah, it does. There's a bit of peat in it.
Down-
You can
Actually,
smell it straight away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't.
You can smell it.
No, I can definitely identify the peat. So the peat is coming from
The distillation.
the distillation.
And it's in a fortified red wine cask. You can see the difference in the colour.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. How do you go about? You've got some interesting cask finishes. What's the story or the kind of idea behind picking one or the other? How did you go about the Yalumba cask or the fortified wine? And you were talking to us about future projects.
Well,
as
Yalumba, we have a range of Yalumba wines on our, and all have been brilliant wines. New World wines from Australia. A lot of people don't rate them. They're still aficionados of the French wines and won't move away from anything. I've got an open mind on everything.
Well, this is the key, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's key.
When I went to Chile, that's one of my next exploits. I'm going to go to Chile and fill a container with their casks from Errázuriz, if I can, and a few other surrounding wineries. Their wines are stunning. Once on a day, was it Pinochet?
In Chile.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pinochet.
It was,
yeah.
wasn't it?
It was Pinochet.
All the wine there was taken by the government,
Right.
put into a big vat, sent abroad. Everybody hated Chilean wine.
Oh, really? I didn't know that story.
They did. Now all the wineries are independent,
Gotcha.
and they can do what they want with the wine, and they do, and they make a fabulous job of it. So that's on my list to visit. Another place is Uruguay. I want to get down there as well. There's brilliant wines down there. Yeah, went to a tasting in London with, I think it was Fells, and they had a Uruguayan, some Uruguayan wines there, and the guys from Uruguay were actually there, and they were beautiful. Really? They really were. But you can't stock everything, you know. You go to all these places and you find these fabulous wines, but you just can't stock everything. We're only a little place on a hillside.
You're in a lovely part of the world as well. But I find it fascinating. I first of all, you know, we've talked a lot. I've certainly
have.
Yeah, I've talked a lot.
Yeah, I still do.
Yeah.
Carry on. Never get a word in edgeways when you're on the phone.
But one thing I've talked a lot about is the role that independent bottlers have played in the whiskey industry as a whole. And look, the truth is, Hervey, you know, we wouldn't be sat here talking about single malts and cask finish, you know, amazing cask finishes without people like you. And then that's the truth of the matter. The big distillers, we've talked about this many a times before, they were big alcohol producers, producing spirit to sell to blenders, to sell to blenders, and then they, you know, mix it with 12 other distilleries, put your brand on it, and there you go. You've got Hague, you've got Cutty-Sar, whatever it may be. But people like you have shown historically what you can actually do with this spirit.
Not me. I'm a tiny
you are
tiddler in a massive game.
We've never heard of
Fisherman's Retreat.
Yes.
You've only been there 30 years.
I've actually been to the Fisherman's Retreat.
Yeah.
You love the casks. But you love the casks. I mean, we talked about last podcast. I didn't know anything about your lumber casks. I mean, and yet it's just an amazing spirit that we're enjoying today. So it's people like yourself, Hervey, are absolutely 100% responsible for the way that the whiskey is developing and making it a more wonderful experience for everybody that enjoys.
Well, you have
whiskey.
the freedom if you were able to buy spirit to fill your own casks with. You have that freedom of what to do with it. Yeah, and it's where the big boys, and now it's getting harder and harder to find new spirit, but
we know that.
They've all clamped down. As soon as Bruichladdich was taken over by Remy, they stopped selling any casks whatsoever. So after 2012, you couldn't buy a cask out of Bruichladdich. It's a great shame.
It is a shame. It's a real shame.
They tightened it all up, and but Jim McEwan, when he was at Bruichladdich, he's retired now, as you know, he brought that place round, and it was his baby.
Yeah, and the laddie.
He did a great job with that.
No, he did, because
and he did the gin as well.
That's right.
Botanist.
Yes,
it was Jim who invented that.
And that they still
created
that.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
In fact, Jim told me, I don't know how true it is, but I'm sure it's not far from the truth, where it was Remy who actually wanted the gin.
Really?
Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? And now you look at what Bruichladdich is, and you know, in terms of its standing as a whiskey, Islay as a region, you know,
put it on the map.
Yeah, it's.
It was up there. It was well on the map with Ardbeg and Lafroig. They were all noted. Well, that heavy smoke, you know?
Yeah.
They were all noted about that.
So what is Bruichladdich is Octomore, isn't it? They do Octomore and Bruichladdich now, which is crazy.
Oh, it is.
I've got a couple of bottles.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, bonkers. So I'm going to take a pause for a drink, so.
He's done nothing but drink. He's took me out for lunch and did nothing but drink and talk. I don't know him. He had a snorkel on at one point.
So in terms of filling, you know, coming back to this, how much harder it is to get hold of new spirit, you know, we have the same issue. So I'm sure as an independent bottler, you're experiencing it as well. So what do you do? Well, I mean, there are obviously new distilleries that are probably a little bit more open to filling casks for you. I mean,
initially they are, yeah. There's some, even then they won't do it. But you just got to mither them.
Yeah.
And go for it.
And I get the impression, Hervey, that you are quite persuasive.
Well, I'm a shy retiring person, as you probably and, I have to bring, forget that and bring myself out of it.
Right.
And mither the buggers.
Yeah, quite right.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Well,
they've got a strict policy. No, we're not going to fill your casks, end of story. Or they may just ease.
You were telling us about one of the distilleries, the newer distilleries that fills casks just for you and another person.
Yeah,
privately.
We're on a list. That's. I'm not mentioning that distillery.
No.
Right. Okay. We were going to see if you would mention it, but okay.
But I'm very fortunate. A new distillery opened in Scotland. I'm not going to say the place. Nearly did. And we got in just at the right time. They wanted a bit more cash, and it happened that we had some casks wanted filling, and they filled them for us. And we've a nice relationship, and they're going to hopefully, I've been told they'll fill us some more.
Excellent.
In due course.
Well, look, my attitude, and I think it should be an attitude that a lot of people share, that if distilleries are not willing to do that, given the importance of this for the entire industry, then it's very short-sighted. I know we talk about shortage of inventory. We understand, in Scotland right now, there's this wide gap between supply and demand. Logistics are hard work. But I think it's really, really important that distilleries do continue to allow their independents to have access to their whiskies. Otherwise, we never get the chance to enjoy these sorts of expressions.
It's opening the whole thing up, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Why have it cosseted in a little? Nobody's going to touch our spirit, or nobody's going to copy what we do. Nobody's just want to.
But it's silly.
Just make a living and have some fun with it.
Yes.
And that's what I'm doing now. I'm having great fun bottling these whiskies that we laid down on a chance, and look, they're coming out nice. I'm
fantastic,
very pleased.
Yeah, and look, I don't want to labour too much on the point, but these distilleries have a debt. Maybe that's a bit of a strong word, but I believe they have a debt to the independent side of the industry, because that's where this sort of Indiana Jones attitude towards making
different ideas. Well, they find off.
Yes.
And
the different ideas that have come from your side of the business have been subsequently adopted by these distilleries, and they've had great success on the back of it. So why stop that process? It's a silly thing to do. You need to keep that.
It's like what would 10 casks filled for an independent bottler, or up to 100 casks, say, to independent bottlers per year, when you're producing millions of litres. Exactly. It's just another string to the bow going off in another direction.
Look, you win a gold medal with this one, let's say, for example, Glasgow Distillery. They drink that. So clearly, everybody recognises Fisherman's Retreat. This is Hervey and James's work. You went out and got the cash. You did the hard work. But Glasgow Distillery still gets the accolades. Mm-hmm. People drink this and they go, yeah, I had this wonderful bottle of Glasgow Distillery that was cast and bottled by the Fisherman's Retreat. So they benefit from it.
Well, I'd like to think they do. I don't.
Half the reason
I promote
still here.
Each and every one of the distilleries actually by doing this, surely.
Yes.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And we talk about this now, and I know it doesn't so much apply to your sort of approach, but we got this. We talk about it all the time, that older inventories rarer and rarer now. We talk about the whiskey lock and all these great whiskies that were allowed to sit for 20 years because people were drinking gin and rum and things like this. But these older expressions, when you get these independent bottles like the one that we did, the 45-year-old Ben Nevis, that causes a lot of ripples. People are really excited to enjoy, and you're not going to get it from the distillery. And you have to go independent.
And is it when you think about it that good?
You're going to talk about age again now, aren't you? It depends. Well, I'll paraphrase you. It all depends on what you like, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I fully take on board what you're saying, and we talked about it, about this ability to develop a really amazing whiskey in a short period of time. But there's a little nuances, in fact, quite important nuances that come from an extended.
I think if you paid a great amount for a cask of whiskey and you get it bottled, there's no way you're going to say it's SH1T, are you? You're going to say,
I like them.
oh,
I enjoy them.
you're going to say, God, that's nice. I've just paid £1 million for that cask.
Yeah, better be coarse. Yeah, all that. Yeah, well, it's not always the case, but yeah. No, I understand what you're saying there. That you might just, there's that sort of, well, it's 45 years old, so it's amazing.
It got to be good.
By virtue of the fact that it's 45 years old.
And I
well,
used to have the
that's
same
nonsense,
thing.
isn't it? Yeah, well,
Thoughts about it.
Yeah. And look, I've tasted really old whiskies that they tasted musty, overly oaky, and they weren't particularly pleasant. Cask air comes into it as well. We talked about sort of letting a whiskey sit in what we call a dead cask, if it's going to be maturing for a long time, isn't necessarily a bad thing, because you don't want to overpower the whiskey with too much wood or sort of overpower it with wine or whatever the cask may be. So you want it to sit, and the only purpose of that sitting is to let that evaporation process take some of those compounds out of the whiskey that do make it a little hot, so you can improve and mellow and increase the complexity of a whiskey, and not about the cask, just purely about that evaporation and some of those compounds that are being lifted out of the whiskey that make for a more civilized whiskey. But you have to be very careful with it over the years.
It needs regular, and I'm not saying people don't look at the whiskies regularly, but you need to look at them and taste them on a regular basis. You can't just leave them. Not in my eyes, anyway.
I think,
because you could have a bad cask. That I remember Jim coming down to our place, and it was
this is not a bad cask.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, we go when we get to
it. It's chewy, that mega.
It is chewy.
I remember Jim coming down to my bar, and he took a bottle of whiskey off. So he said, I haven't tried that edition. And he smelt it, and he had a great nose. He has a great nose. And on smelling it, he said, a lot of people wouldn't pick this up. He says, that cask has been out in the field for a few years, and then they filled it with whiskey. It had a sour note about it.
Really?
And he could tell. And that had been bottled.
Yeah.
Bona fide, single malt cask. Yeah. And
it was an old, tired cask.
But he picked up, he says, that's been out in the field. So
right.
It's musty. It's,
there you go.
And he's spot on.
Yeah.
And until he said it, I didn't know, with 100, 200 whiskies up on the shelf at that point. But when he said it and you noted it, he said, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that I can smell that mustiness when I had a smell.
Yeah.
On the 9th of August 1999, Jim McEwan, who was with Bowmore at that time, walked into our establishment, and we were open, 7 years by that time, and we had rather a large array of whiskey by that time. Our funding had increased somewhat, and we were able to buy a few more whiskies. So James walked in to our establishment with the rep, and he was at Bowmore at that point, before Bruichladdich was resurrected a year or two later. So he walked in. I shook hands with Jim and with Dennis, who was the then rep at Bowmore, and the phone rang. I answered the phone, and my son-in-law said, your grandson has just arrived. I met Jim McEwan the minute or thereabouts, within half an hour of my first grandchild being born.
Really?
So I'll never forget the meeting, and that is this August 9th, 24 years ago.
Really? Wow.
And William is now a chef in our restaurant. He's He's like a barn door. I've stopped hugging him. He just hugs me now. I'm a little drawn. I'm like that.
He's 24 now.
He's 24 in
That's it.
August, yes. And that is how I met Jim McEwan. And
Wow.
around William's birthday every year, I always ring Jim up. I said, "You know how many years it is?" And no, how many is it now? I said, he's 22 this year, or 20, or it's been going on for quite a few years. And I said, we've known each other 24 years. I'll ring him this August and tell him it's 24 years. So that's how I met Jim. And we've had a close relationship ever since. It's been great. Good friends. Last year I went with my van. I changed it to a motorhome, which my wife hates. She'll love that phrase when she sees this. We live in a lovely house, she says, and you want to sleep in a van. I said, yes, love. Nothing against you at all. So it's going back to my wagon driving days. I used to be a wagon driver. I used to have a haulage company, and we had about 10 wagons. And I used to go off regularly and sleep in the cab. So it's no hardship to me, and I just love the freedom of jumping in the van and going. That's how I'd pick up my casks from France, from Cadiz. I can't take it to Chile or Australia. I'd love to.
Amazing.
But and Verona. I was in Verona this summer, this February, just gone, picking up Amarone casks, which now by the middle of June will all have been filled with a couple of different spirits. So you can expect them in a few years' time. We'll keep you updated on them.
Fantastic.
And
look
on
forward
we
to
go.
that. We really look forward to that.
So yeah, that's
Good stuff. And he called you, so you told us. Did he? Was it this cask he called you on, or was it
this one? Yes, I sent him a sample of this one I've just bottled, our edition number 12, and I put on the envelope, taste the whiskey, then open the envelope, and he did, and he rung me, which is quite unusual for Jim. He doesn't ring many people. And he never rings me anyway. And when he rung me, I was taken aback a little, but very pleased. And he said, Hervey, we had a chit-chat about different things at first, and then he said, that whiskey, I'll give it a gold star any time of the day and night. Wow. He said, it's a fantastic whiskey. And how have you done it in 4 years?
This is what
So
we're
I'll
drinking.
tell you.
Go on.
Well, cheers, boys.
Cheers. Cheers again.
This is becoming a piss up, this. You know?
Yeah.
Great.
Well, that was the general idea, wasn't it?
Cheers, Billy. Cheers. We'll keep you in. We'll keep bringing you in. We'll not forget you, Harmy.
So this is. I'm not sort of getting
That's the
more of a.
This one, number 12, no?
This is
Number 12.
Number 12. So
Glasgow Distillery.
Glasgow Distillery.
Do you want to know what I've done with it?
Grapefruit. Yes,
Yes,
please.
right.
Tell us. Please
In
tell us.
Joseph Melot is spelt Melot. Well, spelt Melot, but it's Melot because of French. Joseph. Again, we have a nice relationship with their rep, Olivier, and I asked Olivier for some casks, and he cobbled together some casks for me, and I went down with the pickup and trailer.
Yeah.
The van wasn't converted then.
Right.
I went down with the pickup and trailer, took our vicar as well, because he had a place in France and he wanted a free ride. So,
Sorry, the vicar.
the vicar.
Oh, right. Okay. So
He-
this is
he-
interesting. This sounds like an
he married me
amazing
and
road
my
trip.
wife.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's you and the vicar off to
Me
France
and
to get
vicar
gas for whiskey.
Went off down to the Loire Valley.
Right.
We went to his house first and then dropped off whatever he wanted, or a stove or something. And then we went up to the Loire and to Joseph Melot. And we bought these casks. There were 20 of them, I think. And they were Sancerre, which is famous in the Loire Valley. And Joseph Melot have various plots of land in different areas of the Loire. And each plot has a distinct, different flavour to the wine. I don't know which plot these wine casks had in them, but so we had Sancerre, and we had some Pinot Noir. Put them in the trailer, off back up to England, and we slowly managed to get them filled round and about. 2 in Kilholman, 4 in Glasgow, some more here, there, everywhere. Got them all filled. And in to Arran as well. Arran filled a couple. But Glasgow Distillery filled 4 for us. So that was in about 2018 or thereabouts. And in 2022, it was 3 years and 8 months in the cask on the 1st of November. And I, as I said earlier, had been down to Cadiz and got these fresh sherry casks, Oloroso. And I thought, we'll put 2 of those. We'd sent for samples of these Sancerre, the 4 casks that we'd had in. We had 2 Pinot in Glasgow and 2 Sancerre. And the 2 Sancerre, I decanted into the 1 sherry cask from Cadiz. I said Cadiz. San Luca Barrameda. And we transferred that in around the 1st of November. And they rung me from Glasgow Distillery, did the young fella there. Lovely lad. He said, Hervey, can you move this big cask? We've nowhere to put it. I said, yeah, I'll get it shifted down to our warehouse. So it went down at the end of February. And when it got there, I just asked them to take a sample out and send it down to me. Because it had been in 4 months then. Not thinking there were anything. So it came out at 59 point something %. And it arrived at our house. I opened it up, not thinking much about it. Looked at it, I thought, oh, my God, that's had an effect. Poured it out. Tasted it, cask strength. Oh my goodness.
And that was at 59.
59 point.
Something.
Got
2 or something like that. And I gave a taste to my wife, and she said, oh my God, that's nice. You can drink that without water in it, can't you? I said, yes, you can. I took it up to Gary, our restaurant manager. He said, well, that's the nicest whiskey I've ever tried. At this time in the morning, anyway. It was 9 o'clock. So, he's come alive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you feed him whiskey, he'll do dances for you.
So, then James was on holiday, and I just held a small glass of it up. I said, wait when you get back. And he texts back, what is it? I said, see when you get back. So he had to wait till he got back. We didn't tell him anything. And he tried it. He says, oh my God, that's fantastic.
Really?
So if we don't bottle that now, it'll get too sherried.
So it was a happy accident, really? In terms of
You've been in my business with all accident.
No. In terms of
Can you alter your phraseology, please?
It was a happy accident.
It was an exploration.
It was a carefully planned and executed plan.
Executed. Sorry.
What am I dealing with here?
It was all carefully planned and executed,
Was it?
obviously.
Well, your script. Of course. Give me a sample of that. I just want to take, because regular
see what you're up
samples.
to, yeah,
What if I hadn't
absolutely.
sampled it?
Yeah,
It won't be in
my
that
point,
bottle now.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly.
And we decided then and there. I was going away for a couple of weeks, and I said, James, as soon as I get back, we'll bottle that. So this has been in cask for 4 years and 1 month, and it's bottled now. What's your thoughts on it?
I'm
Unreal.
Try it.
blown away. Again.
Cheers.
Cheers. Billy, what do you reckon?
Cheers, Billy.
Cheers, Billy.
He's speechless now.
Yeah, it's a good 4-year-old there.
It's now, well, that's the thing, isn't it? 4 years old. Wow. Yeah. Obviously, there's that sweetness coming from the wine does a lot, and the Oloroso.
I can't feel the Oloroso that
No,
much.
I think that's where the sweetness is coming from. I mean,
Well, it changed the colour.
Did it?
For a start,
Yeah.
because we had samples not long before from the Sancerre, and that's why I decided, let's do a little bit of an experiment. You know, it wasn't a flash in the pan as you like tried to. Bloody accident.
Yeah, well, it reminds me when they talk about...
You might have to do a bit of cutting on this. I don't know. He's got that camera on a Lazy Susan, though. Have you seen him?
Oh, lazy.
Really good, that, isn't it? How he floats that about.
Oh, yeah, you can...
Better than the shoulder one.
Do you remember Blue Peter when they'd knock something up with a washing up, Fairy Liquid? Oh,
God, you're older than me, aren't you?
You're there with Blue Peter. Fairy Liquid and some, what was it they used to use?
I don't know.
Egg.
I was busy.
Egg carp. Don't you watch Blue Peter. Egg carters and washing up liquid bottles. That's
God,
Billy.
you're bloody old. Well,
So,
what do you think about that then? That is
amazing.
Nice. And if you
so
just
essentially
want
this
it,
is a wine cask finished with Oloroso.
finishing an Oloroso.
That's,
Sancerre from Joseph Mello.
Yeah.
I'm doing a plug for him, you know. I'll send him a link to this and we'll see. So,
no, good job.
Amazing.
Good job. Yeah, I mean, that really...
and that's what I say about keeping it in that cask. It would have been over-sherried.
It would have been over-sherried.
And when I get the accolade of a phone call from James McEwan saying, I'd give that a gold star over.
That's why we
I was
brought you
over
in.
the moon.
Yeah, and quite right too.
And,
you should put every right to be proud, there's no doubt.
There it was.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff. I keep getting a lot of... I keep getting
a very
grapefruit.
great nose on
I've
you.
got a big nose, haven't I?
I weren't meaning that. I weren't being derogatory.
Totally well made.
Hell of a blow. So,
So if you enjoyed the podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, or alternatively head over to Spotify and give us, a rating or a liking? Just whatever it is, make sure it's positive, preferably. Thank you again.